Well, my neighborhood had two lives in my childhood.
Okay.
The first life was, I mean, it's a housing project in Los Angeles. It's still there,
Right.
and it's still riddled with poverty and violence.
Right.
But when I was growing up there, you know, up until the age of crack kicked in, it was actually a beautiful, poor childhood.
Right.
And it's right along the L.A. harbor, the Los Angeles waterfront. In fact, the bridge where the director Tony Scott jumped to his death is 3 blocks from our neighborhood. And we used to, you know, I mean, that was basically our Mississippi River, and we were all Huck Finns and Tom Sawyers. It was very innocent in a way.
Yeah.
And, you know, we used to do forklift races in the shipyards on the weekends when the workers were gone. So, you know, we did all this, like, and we'd go at 5 miles an hour. And it was like, you know, it was peak existence for us. And we'd play on what was the ship on the Love Boat, you know, the Princess Cruise.
Okay.
It was docked under the bridge, and we'd play on it all weekend. And, you know, we go steal money out of the goldfish pond. We'd go fishing all over the place. So it was very beautiful.
Yeah.
But when crack hit, things became violent very fast.
Right.
The neighborhood became militarized, basically.
Wow.
And a lot of my friends who I grew up with since we were, you know, in kindergarten, you know, they became crack dealers. A lot of them were shot and killed. A lot of them to this day are still in prison. A couple of my friends up in San Quentin locked up still. They've been in every jail in the state of California. My whole social alumni group was decimated.
Yeah.
You know, when crack cocaine hit.
Okay.
And so it was a very, very tough thing to go through when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
To see suddenly, you know, this impoverished idyll go bad. And also to be, you know, a quasi-participant in that, because these are the few people you know. So you often found yourself in very, very sketchy situations.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a very, very awkward coming of age. I wouldn't have wished it upon anybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, I do rue that period where things fell apart.
Yeah.
So, but regardless, my first book, I wrote about the beautiful times in a neighborhood like that.
Right.
And I had a lot of nostalgia for that era. And, you know, growing up on welfare and being dependent on the state wasn't, you know, as a kid, you don't think about those things. You think about, you know, what are you going to do today?
Yeah.
What are you going to, you know, what friends are you going to hang out, just like any other kids anywhere else. It was wonderful in a lot of ways.
Right. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, until it became no fun.
Yeah. And when it became no fun, what was your guidance? What kept you in the right place?
Well, you know, for about a year and a half, I wasn't. You know, I did get in trouble. I mean, even when it was fun, I hung out with the kids who, you know, and I was one of them. We got in trouble. I mean, I got arrested at the age of 8 years old for 27 counts of robbery.
Wow.
And I got arrested at 11, at 13 for grand theft. I mean, I got into a lot of trouble during, you know, the innocent era, too.
Okay.
But, you know, when things went awry, the trouble was just different. It was life-threatening at that point.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I was out, you know, like all night long until dawn. The thing that saved me was, even though I was participating in a lot of that, I stayed enrolled in a junior college.
Right.
And I went to classes I never missed class. And and I took all the exams, and also I continued playing basketball. I'm 6'8", so I played a lot of basketball.
Okay. And
so I was somewhat prepared when opportunity came knocking, you know. And that came knocking one day when this wonderful, wonderful man named Johnny St. New came to a skills clinic, and that right there pulled me out of that entire kind of nightmare existence. He played basketball for a school up in Santa Cruz, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing with your life? Who are you playing for?" And I said, "I have no plans at all." said, well, we need a big guy up at Santa Cruz, and if you want to play, let's see if we can work it out. And so it worked out, and you know, that I didn't go back to that neighborhood doing the same things that I had done from that point on. Then I took my schooling very serious.
Okay, so that was it. That conversation and just the door open, and you just never looked back.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my family was still living there, so I went back for 2 summers, but I tried my best to stay elsewhere. I have 7 sisters, and 5 of them were living in that neighborhood, and they were very young, and so I worried about them constantly. They were between the ages of 7 and 14.
Right.
And, you know, so I didn't have to be around for that because, you know, just them and my mother, and so they did need a bit of a presence around there when I was home. So
yeah. Right. And how was that transition for you from, you know, being in a situation where, you know, you were just kind of doing this and doing that, but still attending class, to all of a sudden, well, no, I'm going to this school. I'm going to...
Yeah, I was completely unprepared for it. I was completely unprepared for rigorous academics.
Right.
In fact, my first quarter at Santa Cruz, I was put on academic probation, and I couldn't play the second part of the basketball season because, you know, to this day, I don't know how I graduated from high school. I just never did the homework because that was not something anyone ever told us we had to do. I mean, my mother was totally unacademic.
Right.
And my friends weren't going to tell me to do it because they weren't doing it. So, but I was completely unprepared. It was like a culture shock for one, just to be in a university setting, a real one. And the standard of academics at a UC school is pretty high.
Right.
And so, luckily, the basketball coach, he was a great guy named Mark Henry.
Right.
He, you know, he took me under his wing, and he told me, you know, I can care less about basketball. What you're doing here at this school is important for your overall life.
Right.
And he said, I don't care if you ever play for me again, but you're getting your goddamn degree.